Courtroom is a place where justice is served and truth is sought. It is where the legal system operates to maintain order and uphold the law.
I forgive you on behalf of Salahuddin and his mother.
However, beyond the legal proceedings and verdicts, courtrooms also witness some of the most heart-wrenching and emotional moments in people's lives.
I'm so sorry.
Or defendants serve a term of life without parole. Has to count more.
These sad courtroom moments reveal the deep human impact of crime and the profound complexities of justice. Starting with a case of Alexander Relford. In Lexington, Kentucky, the courtroom fell silent as the sentencing of Trey Alexander Relford unfolded. It was a case that dated back to 2015, involving the tragic murder and robbery of Salahuddin Jitmud, a 22-year-old pizza delivery driver. The horrific events of that fateful night had left deep scars on two families and the community. On the night of the incident, Jitmud was on his last delivery run when he was ambushed by Relford and his two accomplices. They had lured him into their apartment complex under the guise of placing an order. Once Jitmud arrived, they proceeded to rob him and, in a brutal turn of events, stabbed him to death. The crime was both senseless and brutal, leaving a young man dead and his family devastated. As the court session began, there was a palpable tension in the air. The procedural formalities were followed, with Relford being asked to swear to tell the truth. "Yes, ma'am," he responded, his voice barely audible. He had already pled guilty to the charges. The day's proceedings were focused on his sentencing. Before the judge pronounced the sentence, the victim's father, Sambat Jitmud, was given the opportunity to speak.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Sambat, a school principal and a devout Muslim, addressed the court with a remarkable display of grace and forgiveness. His words were directed at Relford, the young man responsible for his son's death. "Trey Alexander Relford, I feel so sad for you that you have to be in this situation," he began, his voice steady despite the emotional weight of the moment. "I wish I could help you as I helped my son to be a good citizen. If Salahuddin were to be here, if he were alive, he will forgive you. That's the way he was. That's the way he is." The courtroom was hushed as Sambat continued. "I'm not angry at you for being part of hurting my son. I'm angry at the devil. I blame the devil for misguiding you and misleading you to do such a horrible crime. No, I don't blame you. I'm not angry at you at all. I want you to know that. I forgive you on behalf of Salahuddin and his mother."
Trey Alexander Relford, I feel so sad for you that you have to be in this situation. I wish I could help you as I help my son to be a good citizen. If Salahuddin were to be here, if he alive, he will forgive you. That's the way he was. That's the way he is. I'm not angry at you for being part of hurting my son. I'm angry at the devil. I blame the devil who misguiding you and misleading you to do such a horrible crime. No, I don't blame you. I'm not angry at you at all. I want you to know that. I forgive you on behalf of Salahuddin and his mother.
The depth of Sambat's forgiveness left many in the courtroom in tears. It was a rare and powerful display of compassion, one that underscored the human capacity for forgiveness even in the face of immense personal tragedy. With emotions running high, Judge Kimberly Bennell then turned to Relford, offering him a chance to speak. Overcome with emotion, Relford struggled to find his words. "I love you so much," he managed to say between sobs, his remorse evident in every tear. Judge Bennell, acknowledging the gravity of the crime and its impact, then delivered her sentence. "Mr. Relford, an incredibly horrible event happened that has changed the lives of two families forever. Nothing can fix it. I'm going to accept the Commonwealth's recommendation, murder, 25 years, and I truly wish for you the very best. Thank you."
Mr. Relford, do you wish to make a statement?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about what happened that day. But I do applaud you, because it takes a powerful man to know that somebody has hurt them and get up there and say what you just said. I have a child shit is for. And I can't imagine the hurt, the pain from what you learn. Just touch it like you do. When I let you, very forgiveness.
Mr. Relford, an incredibly horrible event happened that has changed the lives of two families forever. Nothing can fix it. I am going to accept the Commonwealth's recommendation. Murder, 25 years. And I truly wish for you the very best. Thank you.
Relford was sentenced to 25 years for murder, with an additional 6 years for robbery. The courtroom adjourned with a somber understanding of the profound consequences of violence and the extraordinary power of forgiveness. The case of Salahuddin Jitmud and the sentencing of Trey Alexander Relford remains a testament to the enduring impact of compassion in the face of tragedy. Next, we have James Roeder and Ashley Roeder. In Louisville, Kentucky, the courtroom witnessed a particularly emotional case involving James Roeder and his wife, Ashley Roeder. Both were charged with burglary, accused of breaking into a warehouse and stealing 6 flat-screen TVs. At the time of the crime, Ashley was pregnant, adding another layer of complexity to an already tense situation. James Roeder had been held in county jail since his arrest, with a strict no-contact order in place, preventing him from communicating with Ashley. This separation was particularly painful as Ashley had given birth to their son during this period. The couple had not been able to speak to each other or see each other due to the court's restrictions, making the impending courtroom encounter even more emotionally charged. The judge first addressed Ashley, who was in court with their newborn baby, for her hearing. As Ashley stood there, holding their month-old son, James was brought back into the courtroom after his own hearing.
You sure you're comfortable with this? Is this what you want to do? All right, just stay right there for just a second.
The judge was fully aware of the no-contact order, but recognized the exceptional circumstances. I don't want you to say anything to me about your case at all. Don't say anything. Your lawyer is not present right now, the judge began, cautioning James. She continued, I understand that there is a chance that you're going to go back to Todd County and that your baby is a month old, and you haven't met that baby yet. Is that right? Yes, ma'am, James responded, his voice filled with anticipation and emotion. The judge then addressed Ashley directly. Miss Roeder, do you want to come up here? Despite the no-contact order, the judge made a temporary exception, allowing James to meet his son for the first time. This is your son, the judge said softly, her voice carrying a mix of authority and compassion. As James approached, he could see his baby boy, dressed in a tiny shirt, cooing softly in his mother's arms. It was a deeply touching moment as James gently held his son, savoring the brief but significant encounter.
I don't want you to say anything to me about your case at all. Don't say anything. Your lawyer's not present right now. But I understand that there is a chance that you're going to go back to Todd County and that your baby is a month old and you haven't met that baby yet. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Roeder, do you want to come up here? I know you have a no contact order between you and Miss Roeder that I issued, and I'm not changing that.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
making a temporary exception right in front of me on the record so that you can meet this baby. This is your son. Be careful. You see his little shirt?
Yeah.
Give everybody some. All right.
Thank you.
The judge's temporary exception allowed the family a fleeting yet profound moment of connection amidst their legal troubles. The judge, understanding the gravity of the situation, didn't rush this precious meeting. It could be a fair amount of time before Roeder sees his son again, she noted, acknowledging the harsh reality of the judicial process. After a few minutes, the moment had to come to an end. Give everybody some, James said softly, his voice tinged with both gratitude and sorrow. He knew that this brief encounter would have to sustain him through the challenging times ahead.
And Miss Roeder, you can stay up here because I'm gonna call your case next. Thank you for letting me be a part of that. If you all aren't teared up, then you're just heartless.
James Roeder was sentenced to 4 years for third-degree complicity to burglary. The judge then turned her attention to Ashley. "Miss Roeder, you can stay up here because I'm going to call your case next," she said. Ashley, standing strong for her children, was given probation. She would remain at home to care for their 2 children, including their newborn son. Next, we have Judge Jennifer Doro. In the Waukesha County Circuit Court in Wisconsin, Judge Jennifer Doro presided over a deeply emotional and heartbreaking sentencing hearing for Darrell Brooks. The proceedings were the culmination of a highly contentious trial where Brooks faced over 76 charges, including 6 counts of intentional homicide. The tragic events that led to this day unfolded on a fateful day when Brooks drove his SUV through a Christmas parade, causing unimaginable devastation. 6 people lost their lives, the youngest being just 8 years old, and dozens more were injured. Despite Brooks's claims that he sounded the vehicle's horn to warn the spectators, the jury found him guilty on all counts. As the sentencing hearing began, Judge Doro prepared to deliver her judgment, addressing the court with an emotive speech that reflected the gravity of Brooks' actions.
Logical understanding for Mr. Brooks, other than he's in the middle of a parade, and he can see them. Anyone driving a vehicle would see what's ahead. And we know from this map, right, what was ahead of him. We saw that video footage. We heard the testimony. Many police vehicles at these intersections with their lights flashing. There's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Brooks would understand a parade was going on. You can turn off my monitor, thank you. We also know it was not yet dark. Dusk. This was from the battalion chief who talked about when he arrived after that first alert at 4:39, it was not yet dark, it was dusk. I think that aids to the visibility that Mr. Brooks would have seen all of these people. This is not under cover of night. It's of course downtown Waukesha. We saw city lights in many of the street lights I'm referring to in many of the videos as well that would have been on or coming on. We know just past Barstow, he strikes his first victim, Nicole White. She was with Remax Services with the hot air balloon. If anyone's seen that, we saw it in the video, that is unmistakable what that is. That would get anyone's attention. If this was a mistake, if he was lost, this was his very first opportunity to stop and do the right thing after causing injury to a person. But he didn't. He did not stop. And then, of course, the Waukesha South Band. It's hard not to think about what I watched and not have this reaction. Those were images that frankly kept me up at night, that I saw over and over and over. For their band director, she is a hero to me, to get up on this stand, to talk about, and that was Sarah Waymeyer Aparicio, to identify each one of her students, talk about their formation, talk about what she saw. So strong for all of you. Mr. Brooks had another opportunity to stop. This wasn't one isolated person that he could claim, I didn't know I struck someone. This was driving over people. What Kyle Jewell described as the SUV went over people like they were big old speed bumps. I know the Green children were injured around there. Thankfully, their physical injuries were minor, and I know I could probably spend a long time talking about the injuries of the band members, and I'm not going to go through that. They were significant. It was horrific. Thankfully, none of them were killed.
Judge Doro's heartfelt words were met with a stark contrast in Brooks' demeanor. He remained emotionless, and at one point even raised his hands in a show of disregard. As she neared the conclusion of her address, Brooks began to interrupt, attempting to argue and disrupt the proceedings. "Mr. Brooks, this is my time. You need to not interrupt," Judge Doro admonished him, her patience waning. Despite her warnings, Brooks continued his outburst, leading to his eventual removal from the courtroom by sheriff's deputies. "You need to stop right now, or you will be removed," Judge Doro commanded, but Brooks remained defiant. "Remove me then," he retorted, prompting his escorted exit. The courtroom watched as he was taken away, a final act of defiance in a case marked by his contemptuous behavior.
And then, of course, moving on to Burr's logistics. Between the band and the Blazers, that is where Kelly Graybow and her 10-year-old daughter, Adelia, were in that adorable Cindy Lou Who costume. And what struck me, and Kelly referenced this in her statement yesterday, was seeing the tires go past her head after she was hit. Adelia had major injuries as well. And then, of course, the footage from the Waukesha Blazers. And Jeff Rogers talked both at the trial, he testified, and he gave a statement yesterday about, again, having to come into this courtroom, talk about all of those who were with him, who were injured, and of course, little Jackson Sparks. Another video that frankly is very difficult to watch and hard to unsee. You heard not only Jeff, but Josh Craner talk about what happened, and Josh, of course, being struck. And then the Extreme Dance Group. I think it's fair that I didn't fully understand the extent of their injuries until hearing from many of the victims yesterday. I now understand why one of the girls called her aunt and said, "My entire team is dead," because that's what it looked like. It was horrific. And to think of those two brave young ladies who got up during this trial to testify about what they saw, what they did, Jamie and Alyssa. Your dancers are proud of you, and because of you, justice has been served. We heard from others, spectators, Deborah Ramirez, regarding herself and her son, that the vehicle was accelerating, not stopping. A moment that sticks out to me was really Mr. Brooks trying to chastise her for not seeking medical attention right away. Her response was perfect. She waited due to the number of injured and all the blood she saw. Understandable. Not something to be chastised for. And then moving on, and again, I know I'm not mentioning everybody. These are just some of the highlights that, and I should call them lowlights, not highlights, but some of the testimony and evidence that really impacted the court.
Judge Doro, composed yet visibly affected, delivered Brooks' sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. The decision brought a sense of justice for the victims and their families, though the emotional scars of that day would linger long after the courtroom doors closed. Next, we have Jaleel Markeith Smith Riley. In Cincinnati, Ohio, the courtroom was filled with grief and anger as the sentencing of 23-year-old Jaleel Smith Riley took place. Nearly 3 years prior, Smith Riley's actions had irrevocably altered the lives of many, leading to this somber day in court. On that fateful night, 20-year-old Portia Brooks and her boyfriend Aaron Martin were in their car when Smith Riley, accompanied by 2 men, approached with the intent to rob them. Security footage captured the group as they neared the vehicle, setting the stage for a night of terror. Smith Riley ordered Martin out of the car, and when he found that Martin had no cash, he shot him in the head, causing permanent brain damage. The scene was chaotic and brutal. Bystanders could see the man outside the car, bleeding from multiple wounds. The violence didn't stop there. Smith Riley then turned his gun on Brooks, firing at her as she sat in the car. Witnesses recalled the horrific sight of a woman inside the vehicle, bleeding profusely. Brooks succumbed to her injuries 3 days later, a devastating loss that shattered her family. Following a lengthy investigation, the police arrested Smith Riley, charging him with both shootings. As the sentencing began, the courtroom was heavy with emotion. Aaron Martin, who survived the attack but with permanent injuries, sat in the gallery. Portia Brooks' family was given the opportunity to address the court and the man responsible for their anguish.
There was a guy outside of the car who looked like he was bleeding from multiple spots. There's a lady in it, and she's bleeding.
Portia's mother spoke first, her voice filled with sorrow and anger. He killed me mentally, emotionally. He killed my identity as a mother of 3, as a family of 4. This is what I have left because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others in life. This is what I have left. I talk to her, I kiss her, I hold her, but as you can see, I get nothing back except the reality that she is gone. Next, Portia's younger sister took the stand, her plea clear and direct. He wants parole. Do it like without parole, she implored, her words echoing the family's desire for justice and closure. When it was Smith Riley's turn to speak, he and his attorney attempted to express remorse and ask for leniency. His attorney emphasized, this is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day. He knows it. He can't undo what he did. Finally, Judge Charles Kubicki delivered the sentence. To remove life without parole has to count for the defense of attempted murder, he stated, affirming the severity of Smith Riley's crimes.
He killed me mentally, emotionally. He killed my identity as a mother of 3, as a family of 4. This is what I have left because of his greed, his selfishness, his complete disregard of and disrespect of others and life. This is what I have left. I talk to her, I kiss her, I hold her. But as you can see, I get nothing back except the reality that she is gone. He wants parole. Well, I want my sister. Let's trade. I have to deal with life without Portia, so he should deal with life without parole.
Sorry. Go back and win. I'm so sorry. This is what I come over.
This is somebody that feels genuine remorse. This is somebody that thinks about this every day, and he knows that he can't go back in time and undo what he did.
Or defendant serve a term of life without parole. As to count 4, the defense of attempted murder. Count 4.
Smith Riley received an aggravated murder and attempted murder, and also sentence of 23 years without parole. The courtroom's silence was palpable as the weight of the judge's decision settled over those present. Next, we have Antonio Barbeau. Antonio Barbeau, a seemingly young and playful 14-year-old, committed a crime that shocked his community. Alongside his 13-year-old friend, Nathan Papp, Antonio conspired to steal money from his great-grandparents' house. While their motive might have been understandable in a dire emergency, the 2 teenagers sought money merely to buy pizza and marijuana. The crime, however, escalated far beyond mere theft. Barbara Olson, Antonio's 78-year-old great-grandmother, was home during the robbery. Instead of opting for threats or intimidation, Antonio and Nathan resorted to brutal violence. Armed with a hatchet they found in the house, the teenagers attacked Barbara mercilessly. She was discovered later in a pool of blood, a gruesome testament to their savage actions.
13 years old last September when Antonio Barbeau and his friend Nathan Papp went to Barbeau's great-grandmother's house. The 2 bludgeoned 76-year-old Barbara Olson to death using a hammer and an axe. Then they stole her purse. Judy Offit asked for leniency for her grandson, despite the fact Barbeau killed her mother.
I can tell that Tino feels very badly about participating in killing my mother.
Barbeau could not get through his statement. His lawyer finished his thoughts.
I know I don't show my emotions much and I myself am not sure why. But that doesn't mean I don't.
I took away someone's mother, their grandma, sister, friend, when I had no right to do so.
The prosecutor asked that the boy serve 35 years before he'd be eligible for parole. The judge added a year, making him eligible for parole in 2048, when the now 14-year-old boy will be a 50-year-old man. Stephen Olson, the victim's son, thought the sentence was fair, but the crime is one that is tearing apart the family.
Horrendous. I mean, I don't know how many times that I get up in a given day and just still can't believe it happened. I mean, it's just so horrendous, and it's crazy.
You know, less than 24 hours after they did this, they're out buying pizza. 10-year-old, can you imagine? Our statutes, the way they're standing right now, 10-year-old facing life in prison. I don't understand that. They aren't adults, they're children.
During the court proceedings, the medical examiner testified that Barbara Olson had been struck more than 15 times with the hatchet, primarily targeting her head and neck. The brutality of the attack was unimaginable, and it was clear that Barbara had suffered immensely before her death. The courtroom was left in stunned silence as the details of the crime were laid bare. Despite their young age, the severity of the crime meant that Antonio and Nathan were tried as adults. Antonio's family highlighted that he had suffered a car accident at the age of 10, which had impaired his cognitive abilities. A psychiatrist testified that this accident made Antonio easily influenced by Nathan. During his testimony, Antonio revealed that Nathan had also struck his great-grandmother multiple times during the attack. Additionally, he disclosed their failed attempt to hide Barbara's body in a car trunk before covering it up in the garage. Antonio's emotional apology in court was a heartbreaking moment.
Not even in high school, 14-year-old Antonio Barbeau walks into a Sheboygan courtroom handcuffed. Tino, as he's called by family and friends, agreed to testify how he killed his great-grandmother, Barbara Olson, in her Sheboygan Falls home last September.
We were going to try to scare her to get money and then use force if needed.
Okay. And when you say use force if needed, was there a discussion about what type of force you might use?
An attack, I guess to kill.
That was the plan. Barbeau says he and his 14-year-old friend Nathan Pop started plotting the day before Olson's death. Barbeau said the two hid the weapons in their pants as Pop's mother drove them near Olson's home. Pop and Barbeau entered through Olson's unlocked garage door.
She knew I was on the run and she said she was going to call my mom.
What happened next?
We got in and then I looked to Nate and nodded and shook my head as in yes or no. He nodded and then I took the first swing.
Okay, and when you say that you took the first swing, is with the hand axe?
Yes, sir.
Barbeau calmly testified he and his friend took turns striking Olson.
She started heading into the living room falling.
And as she was falling, were there any more blows? Did you strike her again?
I hit one more time as she was falling.
At any point, did you not have the hand axe during this incident?
Right after that, Nate took it and he used it, the blade side of it.
Grocery store surveillance video showed the teens picking up gloves and wipes, which Barbeau said was used to wipe away fingerprints. Here you see one of them casually swinging the bag. Trying to discredit Barbeau, Pop's attorney pointed out Barbeau's lies to police when first questioned.
He specifically asked you if you knew what happened to her, and you told him no. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You were lying, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Barbeau shared all of these details in front of his and his great-grandmother's family.
Ultimately, Antonio was sentenced to life imprisonment, but with the possibility of parole after 36 years. By then, he would be 50 years old. Nathan Papp was also found guilty and received a life sentence, with eligibility for parole after 31 years. Next, we have Daniel Villegas. In the El Paso County Courthouse, Texas, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation as 41-year-old Daniel Villegas stood trial once more for a crime that had haunted him for over 2 decades. Accused of killing 2 teens in 1993, when he was just 16 years old. Villegas had endured a tumultuous legal journey marked by controversy and injustice. The case against Villegas centered around a confession he gave as a teenager, allegedly coerced by an El Paso detective. Despite recanting his confession shortly after, claiming it was coerced and untrue, it became a pivotal piece of evidence in his trials. Villegas steadfastly maintained his innocence throughout 3 separate trials, each fraught with its own challenges and outcomes. His first trial in 1994 ended in a mistrial due to a hung jury, unable to reach a unanimous decision. A year later, in 1995, Villegas was retried and convicted of capital murder, sentenced to life in prison. He spent 18 years incarcerated until 2013, when his conviction was overturned due to ineffective assistance of counsel. Released in January 2014 on bond, Villegas awaited a 3rd trial, all the while building a life outside prison, including fathering 2 children.
Please be seated. We're back on the record in cause number 94-0D09328, State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. The record should reflect the attorneys for the state, the attorneys for the accused. The accused are present in the courtroom. The court has received a message from the jury indicating that they've reached a verdict. Pete, let's bring the jury in. Please be seated. We are back on the record in cause number 94-0D09328, the State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. The records reflect the attorneys for the state, the attorneys for the accused. The accused are present in the courtroom. The court has brought the jury back into the courtroom, having received a message that they've reached a verdict. Madam Presiding Juror has in fact reached a verdict. Could you please hand the charge and the verdict form to the bailiff, who will deliver it to the court so that I can ensure that it is in proper form. The court does find that the verdict is in proper form. If the defendant will please stand.
Throughout his legal battles, the prosecution persisted in alleging his guilt despite the absence of DNA, firearm evidence, or any forensic link tying Villegas to the crime scene. His case gained significant attention as many believed he had been wrongfully convicted, fighting against a justice system that seemed to have failed him. In the courtroom, tension mounted as the jury delivered their verdict. Villegas stood, facing the possibility of freedom after spending much of his life incarcerated for a crime he insisted he did not commit. The culmination of 25 years of legal battles and uncertainty hung in the balance. The presiding judge addressed the jury, seeking their decision. Finally, the verdict was read aloud. We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Villegas, not guilty of...
In the District Court of El Paso County, Texas, 409th Judicial District, the State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, number 94-0D09328. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Villegas, not guilty of...
The courtroom erupted in cheers and applause. For the first time since he was 16 years old, Villegas heard the words he had longed for, not guilty. The weight of wrongful conviction lifted, and Villegas was declared a free man. The judge confirmed his newfound freedom, releasing him from all conditions with heartfelt wishes for his future.
Does anybody wish to have the jury polled? There has been a request that the jury be polled so that I can ensure that it is your individual verdicts. Juror number 1, Ms. Courtney, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, Mr. Flores, is this your verdict? Juror number 3, Ms. Rocha, is this your verdict? Juror number 4, Mr. Contreras, is this your verdict? Juror number 5, Mr. Miranda, is this your verdict? Juror number 6, Mr. Paul, is this your verdict? Juror number 7, Ms. Luna, is this your verdict? Juror number 8, Ms. Gonzalez, is this your verdict? Juror number 9, Mr. Hunt, is this your verdict? Juror number 10, Ms. Guido, is this your verdict? Juror number 11, Ms. Bloom, is this your verdict? And juror number 12, Ms. Estevane, is this your verdict? The court does find this to be the verdict of the jury and will be accepted as such. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury panel, you have been under many instructions since you've been with me at the beginning of this week. You probably know them as well as I do. You are no longer under any instructions. You are free to discuss this case with whomever you choose. By the same token, you have the right to keep your deliberations personal and private if that is your desire. I do know that it is the custom of the lawyers in this community to talk to the jury, to see what was important to them, so that they can better represent their sides in the future. It is always this court's custom to go back and talk to the jurors, to answer any questions I may be able to answer about their jury service here in the 409. I said it on Monday and I say it with more conviction today. I truly do believe the two greatest freedoms we enjoy in this country is the right to vote for those who govern us and the right to sit as jurors when someone's been accused of a crime. On behalf of the state of Texas, on behalf of the attorneys for the accused, on behalf of the accused, on behalf of my staff, but most importantly, on behalf of your system of justice, thank you for admirably carrying out your civic duty to this great country. You are excused from further jury service. For those who are there, I will be back there shortly. All right. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that in cause number 94-0D09328, State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, that the jury has come back with a verdict in this case, finding that the accused not guilty. Mr. Villegas, you have been under many conditions in this court. You are no longer under any conditions in this court. You are free to leave. Thank you. Good luck to you, sir.
That's all for this video. We hope you have found this video informative and interesting. What are your thoughts on these sad courtroom moments? Let us know in the comments section. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon for more interesting videos like this. Thank you for watching our video.